What's up, everybody? This is Dark Macek with Brutally Delicious, coming at you with a review of Girlschool's brand new album, WTFORTYFIVE. Great album title. Going into this, I'm very sorry to say, I knew only 3 or 4 Girlschool songs, and most of them were covers. They did a great cover of Fox on the Run sometime in the 80s. They had a collaboration or two with Motorhead. I'm thinking of the song Emergency, and also Please Don't Touch. But perhaps least importantly, they contributed Auld Lang Syne to that heavy metal Christmas album. I think it's called We Wish You a Metal Christmas and a Headbanging New Year. Basically saying I knew they were an old school, all-female, rock and roll, sort of Motorhead-ish band, but didn't know the extent of their talents. So this album surprised me greatly. When I think of bands that are 45 years into their career, they're usually not churning out albums that are terribly good. Maybe it's different because a band like Girlschool knows they're not going to make money off of a studio release and they're just writing for the fuck of it. But this music sounds fresh and inspired and just the right amount of angry. Enough to get you riled up, but not enough that it's like, wait, you people are like 60, haven't you grown up by now? Let's start talking about some songs. It Is What It Is, the opening track. That's probably my least favorite phrase ever. I think it's something people say when something bad happens and they don't want to admit that it was their fault. So I was expecting to hate this song, but it was great. Those vocals do not sound like a band that's been around for 45 years. They don't sound like a band that's been around for 15 years. These are so fresh. Maybe we men are just cursed because our voices go below acceptable rock and roll range by the time we're 30. But I did not hear a tangible difference between the voice on that Fox on the Run cover and what I listened to an hour ago. It's a great chorus, a great sing-along, and there's a lot of that on this album. Moving on, the song Cold Dark Heart. This was a lot heavier than I would have imagined for a band of that era. They're not quite as heavy as the band I'm about to mention, but I was reminded of Huntress. Huntress is hard to classify, but for the sake of argument, let's just say that they're kind of thrashy compared to Girlschool, but there's a similar dark tone between the two. Song Bump in the Night. Much better song than the title suggests. It's a pet peeve of mine when the inverse happens, like when a band has this amazing song title and then the song is totally mid. In the interest of staying positive, I won't name any examples. But this song is a great chorus, great sing-along. I just think they could have named it something cooler than Bump in the Night. But at the same time, the fact that the song is so much better than the title suggests is pretty serendipitous. The song Barmy Army. I have no idea what this means. I'm too American to understand these British isms. So I Googled it. Apparently it's something to do with supporting a cricket team. There's probably a really good analogy here about their fan base, kind of like the Kiss Army. Maybe this is their Barmy Army because they're British. I don't know. Another great sing-along, though. There was a refrain of Cheers, you lot, which they also do at the end of Auld Lang Syne. I figured this was not coincidental, so it turns out that's apparently one of their album titles. I think it was a greatest hits. A quick YouTube search suggests that this is their curtain call, kind of like how Megadeth has the You've Been Great, We've Been Megadeth, Good Night. I hope that's what it is. Moving on, Into the Night. Yet another great sing-along. If you'd played this for me and said it was from their 80s stuff and covered by a modern band, I totally would have believed it. It sounds like a timeless piece of rock. It is not trying to sound like the 80s. It does sound like the 80s. I'm reminded of when Rat released their album Infestation in, I think, 2010, and they just wrote a bunch of great hard rock songs. They didn't sound like they were trying to relive the glory days of Spandex, except for that one song that was a total Dance the Night Away ripoff, but it does not sound washed up in the slightest. It sounds like they've still got a lot of gas in the tank. Last but not least, Are You Ready? Very similar deal to Into the Night. I could have said the same exact praises about this one. So I think my takeaway from today is I've been sleeping on this band for way too long. If they are this rockin' 45 years into their career, what the hell were they churning out when they were in their 20s? To all my fellow contemporaries, give this one a listen. You will not regret it. Rock on.